former Fulton County District Attorney and Sheriff.
Formerly a judge, and he knows a little bit about how these things go.
From Mohawk Valley, legal eagle, lawman.
He is the Sheriff of Fulton County, New York. Just such an amazing guy.
This is the Rich Giardino Show, where the Constitution, crime, and politics meet.
Rich Giardino Show. Tonight I have a special guest named Frank Grillo. He's a gunsmith from Casper, Wyoming. I first met Frank a few years ago when he was working with a couple of my local friends here in Fulton County, Derek and Jeff Brown from Brown's Ford, and Donnie Whipsell from Kingsborough Lumber Company. And when I first met Frank, he, for the last several years, he designed special rifles for us to use for fundraising for our canine. It has an emblem from the NRA, the Pine Tree Rifle Club, and the Sheriff's Department. And he does it out of the generosity of his heart. And Donnie and Don from Kingsborough Lumber Company and Jeff and Derek from Brown's Ford and Collision, they're the ones who actually help fund the program. And they have raised for us in the vicinity of $35,000 to $40,000 in the last 3 or 4 years, and we really appreciate it. And that's how I first got to meet Frank. He's a U.S. Army vet, and he was a medic in the front lines. He was 3 years deployed with a tank division, correct?
The first two were with the tank division, first armor division. That's correct.
First armor division.
Yeah.
And so, it's not law enforcement, but he supports law enforcement. And one of the things I want the show to do is Frank is what I call a silent hero. Unlike some people on the podcast.
When I'm on an interview on Zoom, I'm a silent hero.
Yeah.
I like to stay in the background here, Rich.
I know you tried to, but I like to recognize people who've taken their experiences, good, bad, and indifferent, and turned them into something good. And when Frank got back, he decided that he wanted to do something for others. And he went on a hunt with a friend of his to help veterans. And a lot of people aren't aware of this. Like law enforcement, veterans have a high percentage of the suicides occur to veterans across this country, active duty and individuals who come back stateside. And I call it the silent killer because we always honor those killed in the line when they're serving. But people don't realize the trauma that they take back. So Frank was nominated in 2022 for a Jeffersonian Award for his community service and being involved in a veterans program that allowed veterans who used to like to hunt and couldn't because of maybe their disability or didn't have a disability but wanted to get out and help them deal with trauma in a good recreational outlet. And so he's our guest tonight. And Frank, I want to start a little bit about your passion. How did you decide, or why did you decide to give back and do something for other vets?
Okay, so the answer to that's easy. There was a state trooper named Ed Dunning. Let me start a little further back. Great guy. He used to be the station chief for the Cheektowaga, New York station. He's a state trooper. He's a good guy. So a long time ago, I went to Iraq. I did 3 tours in Iraq. And when I came back, like everybody else, anybody who's seen combat, we're all going to be a little different. I stopped sleeping. I went from combat medic to paramedic. Paramedic was an easy program, which I didn't complete because at some point I realized that the people I was trying to help weren't the 18 to 40-year-old healthy male trying to fight his way out of a combat zone. It was people who sometimes just didn't care, and I couldn't muster the energy to do that. So, I ended up leaving that program. I ended up going for a business degree. But really, I just stopped sleeping. And this is a story a lot of us have. And I would eat and eat and eat. I would eat sugar. I became diabetic. I was almost 500 pounds at one point. And I was pretty much just waiting to die. And at some point, a beautiful man named Ed Dunning, along with a buddy of ours, Harry, who's recently passed, they turned to me and said, "Why don't you come hunting?" And I said, "Well, I tried hunting when I came home, but being in the woods by myself with a shotgun was not a good idea. Not because I was going to off myself. I was just worried about, God forbid I break my ankle. I'm out here by myself." So I said, okay. And I bought a rifle. I remember the first day we went out And typical Buffalo, New York weather. We were in Attica, and the snow was wet snow, and it was coming down sideways. And I remember half of my body, it's all waterproof, but it's not, was covered in an icy shell. That's how miserable I was up in this tree stand. The trees rocking the entire time. We didn't see a single thing. The next day, I slept terrible. I'm just about diabetic at this point, and I ended up just miserable. And I said, Ed, you know what? I'm just going to go put my chair over there. I saw a couple deer the other day, and that day I shot 3 deer. So I shot the first one, and we're up on a tree farm, and I shot the first one, and I said, Ed, I said, I got one, but I couldn't see it. I thought I missed. So I called him, and I'm like, Ed, there's still 2 more. I think I missed the first one. He goes, well, shoot. We got the licenses. I said, okay. And I shot the second one. And I said, can I shoot the third? He goes, no, don't shoot the third. I said, okay, Ed, okay. So we get out there, and he comes out and he helps me gut the first one, and he's laughing at me because I got this big buck knife, and he's got this little Swiss Army knife, and he's like, "What are you doing?" I said, "I don't know." So he gets out there and he carves the first one. He goes, "What's that?" So what's that over there? I said, "What do you mean?" The other deer I shot, I hit it with a 30-06. It dropped it like a pancake. I just didn't see it. Right. So that was 2 deer, and then at the end of the day, I think there was a third deer that was already wounded, and it was coming up on a tree line. And I said, can I shoot it? He goes, you're not taking it home. One of the other veterans is getting that deer. I said, okay. So I shot that deer. I shot 3 deer. And so what that did for me was that was inspirational, right? That gave me pride. I'm 485 pounds. I am miserable. My marriage is failing. God bless my ex-wife. She's a wonderful human. I couldn't have lived with me. I stopped sleeping. I was patrolling my neighborhood. I was checking the windows every day. This is 2 years out of the military, right?
Let me stop you for a minute. I didn't
Yeah.
realize there was an upstate New York connection. I thought you were a out
Yeah.
west kind of guy. That's how I believed.
No. I was Buffalo, New York.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So how'd you get out west? Not to interrupt you, but how did you?
So sometime around 2016, my ex-wife and I were talking. I was graduating from Damon College up in Amherst
Yep.
with a business degree. I tried social work. That was a horrible, horrible mistake. Anyway, so I graduated, and she and I, you do 3 tours in a combat zone. In the first 5 years of your marriage, it destroys your marriage. I don't care what the Army tells you. I don't care what anybody tells you. 3 tours in the first 5 years is 3.5 years of you not knowing your wife, right?
Mhm.
So we ended up being really good friends, and our marriage lasted like 14 years. But at the end of the day, it was pretty obvious it wasn't going to work, and I needed a fresh start. So after I graduated with the business degree, I decided to give a shot to gunsmithing school. And the best gunsmithing school is in Colorado, Lakewood, Colorado. It's Colorado School of Trades. It's the #1 school in the nation. And I shot out there, and that just started a whole new life.
So I got to do my commercial ad here.
Sure.
If you like conversations like this, and probably if you're from PETA, you don't like this conversation about deer hunting, but for others,
Very
please
tasty.
like, share, and subscribe on Apple, YouTube, Spotify, and Ramble to the Rich Giardino Show. And like I said, tonight's program is more about the silent heroes that have turned things around for themselves and made a difference for others. I started to tell you that not only did Frank help us with the canine program, I mean, we wouldn't be where we are without people like Frank, Pine Tree Rifle Club, Antique Bar Show we have, the Broad Alban Canine Walk. But Frank also has been helping these guys around upstate in Fulton County, and now we expanded Montgomery County, Salute to Service, which every year it started very humbly with
Right.
Assemblyman Mark Butler years ago, and he did a barbecue for the veterans, and it did it to VFW. The next year, Pine Tree Rifle Club took over. It got so large that this other organization, Salute to Servicemen, took it over, and we had close to 700 people last year at Paul Niagara Center, and veterans and their families are invited. And it's something to see them light up. Our Kaiser Elise Stefanik was there. She met every person,
Yeah.
shook every hand.
She's wonderful.
And Frank and Donnie Wixel again, and the Browns, and also Tom Georgia to some
Yeah, I was going to
extent.
say Tommy. You can't forget Tommy with the
Yeah,
smile.
Crazy Tom. And they they got Frank. Frank donated another rifle for them, and it's a fundraiser for them. But the other thing that they do here is venison for veterans.
Yeah.
And venison for veterans was also an idea that started a few years ago in another county. And Tom Georgia from Montgomery County and our Assemblyman Robert Smullen and some other people locally got involved. Sheriff Smith from Montgomery County and myself. But we're just the pretty faces, me and the sheriff. But
Yeah.
a lot of hard work. The Office for the Aging of both counties, and what we do, which is interesting, is if somebody hits with their car a deer and kills it, then if they don't want it, we put a tag on it. We call Tommy, we call Donnie. They pick up the deer, they get butchered. And this past year, 4,000 pounds of venison,
Oh
bear, and other
gosh.
wild game were given in
God
one, two,
bless.
four counties, and
Yeah.
it's just gone on. So constant things. One of the things we're going to do at the end of the show and on all of our links, we're going to put help for veterans, suicide prevention hotlines. We're
Sure.
going to put on local help. And when I say local, there's national hotlines. But we're also going to talk about if you want to get involved in some of these programs locally. Um, I want you to talk to us a little bit of, if you could, Frank, about your new program, Heroes Outdoors. What do you do with that? And it's pretty new. It's fledging. You just started it recently.
It is. Yeah. So one of the guys I went to Iraq with twice, named Ben Harris. We call him Dirty. Him and a buddy of his, Matt White. When I was out here, so a lot of the things that you want to do, um, when it comes to hunting and when it comes to disabled veterans, you need to have a 501c3. You need to have a nonprofit. A nonprofit is in many ways a tool like a wrench or a socket or anything else. If you want to be able to access certain privileges, in this particular case, if you want to take veterans hunting, you need to be attached to a nonprofit. So when I told my friends that I was struggling getting some stuff going, they built a nonprofit. And what the nonprofit does is it's going to take veterans hunting, but it's also going to do vacations for law enforcement, for Gold Star families, for stuff like that. It's going to be more than just the state of Wyoming. It's going to be countrywide.
And people sometimes do confuse, like, well, why would a veteran, after being in the heat of battle and seeing their friends die and getting injured, want to hunt? Hunting is something they did when they were kids and growing up, and so
You
for a
know,
lot of them, it's such a release in a recreate, and like you say, it's a recreational situation more so. It's not like the movies.
Rich,
It's real life.
so what I would say to that is the first time I picked up a rifle afterwards, after the 3 tours, everything started coming back. The training started coming back, right? Trigger squeeze, breath control, focusing on a target. When you breathe in, you breathe out, you've got 11 seconds of clarity before your pupils start dilating. These are all things that you learn in the military, especially in a combat zone when your adrenaline's flying. Well, that's this almost the same thing as when that big buck comes through your field of view, right? So by training with a rifle, it kind of brings us back to who we were in the military. It gives us that pride when you hit that gong at 300 yards or 500 yards.
Mhm.
So it's very similar in a lot of ways. And a lot of people can't stand taking a life. A lot of people can't possibly imagine killing an animal, but there's quite a few other people who want to put healthy, clean meat on a plate, stuff that isn't grown with antibiotics, stuff that isn't grown, it's grown in nature.
Yeah. So we're going to continue our conversation, but you can Facebook Heroes Outdoors, and
Yeah,
then what we're going to do, folks. Again, all our platforms will have ways to connect with Frank and his nonprofit to help out. But you
sure.
get another unique thing, and it's funny because coming from New York and you from Buffalo, New York
Yeah,
gives everything to everybody.
yeah,
So this is a real interesting one. Full plate, full hearts, feeding Natrona County's children. And
yeah.
this was weird to me because in our state,
We don't do
if you're
that.
a certain poverty level, you get as much, you get the meals at school, you get a breakfast and a lunch, and then they send stuff on weekends sometimes and in the summer. But tell
Yeah,
us, how did you get involved? That's far different than taking veterans hunting.
it
How did you
is.
get involved with that? And what are you
So
doing now?
about 2 years ago, I started helping. So I'm pretty good at raising funds, as you know. I'm pretty good at building rifles, raffling rifles, and there's no place better to do that than in Wyoming, where everyone loves guns. That being said, I started helping other people. Children whose families, the children has cancer. There's a group that raises service dogs for veterans. There's a group that does all kinds of stuff, and I started helping them out. I found out that in Natrona County, what they do is they give children an allotted amount for food. Um, the parents pay into the account, and if the account goes negative more than $15, then the kids, they still feed them, but they only feed them a piece, 2 pieces of bread and some peanut butter and a carton of milk. Right. So I never grew up like this, right? I grew up as an Italian in New York, and my childhood wasn't amazing, but I was never hungry. I can only imagine being a 13-year-old kid trying to concentrate on math and being hungry. So I said to my friend, a friend of mine, his name is Peanut. He does tattoos. I said, donate $1,000 to tattoos, and we'll take out the entire high school. But it turns out there's 3 high schools, and there's like 10 middle schools, and there's like 10 whatever. All the schools, there's 22 schools.
How big is the county, Natrona County? Is that where Casper's located?
Yeah, I can tell you
Well,
there's
how many
60,000 in
people?
Casper alone. It's not like a New York, it's not like a New York size, but it's really big. It's really big. So 22 schools, 1,750 kids are in debt. So that's 17. And if you're like a foster kid, then you may be sitting in that food debt for years. You may be eating the peanut butter sandwich for years. And I've seen the third world, and I've seen where the worst of humanity is, and I've seen where they don't even get a peanut butter sandwich. I've seen people starving to death. You know, so it's kind of on me that if I see it and I can fix it and I can help, I want to help. We're on pace to knock out all 3 high schools. I don't know if we'll knock out all the schools. We're doing about $1,200 to $1,300 raised a week, which is
When did you
good.
start? When did you start the program?
2 weeks ago.
Okay, so this is fresh, ladies and gentlemen. This is how
Yeah,
up to the minute this program is. This
yeah,
is a fresh program, and again, these conversations are meant to educate and inspire, and I want you to adopt programs that Frank's involved in if you want to know more about feeding kids, because we hear about food insecurity and you don't think, who thinks about the rural areas, I mean,
I
I
don't
don't
have
think
a I don't have a dog in this fight, Rich. I
yeah.
don't have a kid. I don't have a kid in the school system. I don't have any of that. But I have time. I got blown up a bunch of times, and I don't have to work again for the rest of my life. I'll never be worrying about where my food's going to come from. So I've got time. These parents, they're working sometimes 2 jobs. So I'm going to try and help where I can, when I can, because I have time to do it. That's
And
that's the only reason.
And my point, folks, is if you want to start a program like this in your community, either for kids in the schools or we have a problem with homeless kids in our country, and people don't realize it. The homeless kids in our country, they're not homeless in a sense necessarily that you see them on the streets, especially in
Right.
small counties like ours. Where you'll see them is they couch surf.
They're couch
When
surfing,
parents are at
exactly.
work, they go sleep at their friends' houses on the couch. But I want you
Just
to
like veterans.
yeah, like veterans, people don't realize it. And
Yeah.
also, we're gonna post all the veterans assistance places you can get in New York, and also national hotline numbers, because it is people don't realize the post traumatic stress and the suicides active, and especially after they've left the service. I mean, that
Yeah.
stuff stays with you. I have a friend who every time July 4th and Labor Day comes along, he asks me, "Can you post something about fireworks?" Because he says, not only does it scare the shit out of his dog, but it scares the hell out of him because he was
Yeah.
used to, it just brings him back to the battles and war. And so I really want to thank you for what you've done. Again, tell us some of the, I want to be sure I get it right. And again, we're
Sure.
going to reach out to you, but tell us the websites and stuff, how to get involved. And if you want to donate to Heroes Outdoors, or you want to donate to Feeding the Tronas
Yeah.
children, uh, county's kids, then you can reach out to Frank. But if you want to start your own program, reach out to Frank and he'll help
Yeah.
you.
I'll help.
He'll give you the directions, the steps to do it, because part of this is educating others to do the right thing. And
Yeah.
again, unlike some of us on this side of the camera, Frank doesn't look for the publicity. I'll take
No,
it. But Frank
no.
doesn't care. He doesn't do it. He does it for the goodness of his heart. So Frank, give us some of those websites and stuff so we know.
Hero Outdoors. You can find us on Facebook. That's the easiest way to find us. And the Full Plates, Full Hearts, Feeding the Shoshone County's Future. That's a good little program. We got 6 Marines coming in September. I have to fundraise for that because I don't know where they're going to stay, probably on my couch. We're going to take 6 Marines hunting this season. That's going to be a lot of fun. and we got to raise $36,000 to feed the kids in the Toronto County. So if anybody wants to chip in for that, I'd really appreciate it.
And again, folks, I got to thank our local sponsors. I got to thank Frank. I knew he was Italian. That's what I liked about him, because both our names end in a vowel and begin with a G. So we're both good there. But I
Yeah.
didn't realize he had upstate roots. I thought he
Yeah.
was this outdoors guy from Wyoming,
Yeah.
and so that's refreshing and pleasing to me. But I will
Good.
say this, that I've got to thank Frank. I got to thank the Browns, Ford and Collision. I got to thank Donnie Wixel, Tom Georgia. These guys do a lot.
Tim and
locally.
Ashley Delaney are real
And
big.
Ashley is taking the lead on the
She's a
servicemen.
powerhouse. That
Yep,
one.
and she's got it running. It started, like I say, it started with the Assemblyman in Pine Tree, VFW, and it just grew so big. And last year they had Eddie Sturgis Family Barbecue, and they had hundreds of meals and brisket, I think, and chicken. And we appreciate those. Every small community needs the help they get from
Yeah.
businesses and individuals. And our K9 program wouldn't exist if it wasn't for the businesses, the individuals. Pine Tree Rifle Club, every year we have an annual ride. It's the 14th year. They've raised close to 150,000 for us. And when you add the money from Frank Grillo
Yeah.
and Manny Wixel, Tom Georgia, and the Browns, that's added, like I said, easily another 35 to 40 grand.
Rich, can I say one thing about one amazing American, Emily
Yep.
Stefanik?
Oh, Elise Stefanik.
Elise Stefanik,
does-
excuse me. She is standing up for us in a time when we need people to stand up for us. I'm not going to get political here, but she's a warrior in our corner, and she always has been. And thank her when you see her.
Frank, I honored her at the sheriff's breakfast a couple of years ago, because people don't realize she does a lot of behind the scenes stuff. She's up front with Trump, but she doesn't brag about the veteran stuff she does,
Right.
mental health, suicide. She doesn't brag about the day-to-day calls her office gets, because she's got the most veterans and military in her district. And she doesn't brag about law enforcement and EMS, because she does a lot for mental health that people don't know, pushing legislation through, backing legislation. And she gets a lot of heat, and one of the things that I notice is, people who are willing to stand up and speak up, sometimes they get those who want to cancel, sometimes the people who attack it. And I always wondered, like, I don't care what side of the aisle they are, but the personal attacks,
Yeah.
I said to somebody the other day, Andrew Cuomo, our former governor, and I'm no fan of his, he and I went to law school together, and Donald Trump, they both have that gene that you can throw everything at them and they keep freaking going, and I admire that part of it, regardless of what party they are, and no matter what you think of their character. I just think to myself, how do you get up in the morning? How do you shield your family from this stuff? And how do you keep going?
She was
And
pregnant
resiliency.
for a bunch of it.
Yeah, resiliency.
How?
And at least,
How do you do that? She's amazing.
yeah, she's got a little. It was funny because she's got a son, and her son is now probably 2 years old. And
Right.
when we honored her, I got her plaques and stuff, but instead of plaques, I got her a onesie with an army outfit, and I got her a police outfit for her son.
Love
A little
it.
bit different. But again, these are conversations we want to have. Please like,
Yeah.
share, and subscribe to the Rich Giardino Show. Meet the other Frank Grillos who are out there every day that you don't hear their names. You might hear about their programs, but they need your support. They need to make a difference for veterans, for law enforcement, and for kids. And this is a guy who's, like he said, he's got the time, he's got the talent, and he's willing to do it. So reach out to Frank. We're going to list the way to get a hold of him, and join a local organization that supports your vets or law enforcement in your community, please. Again, this is the Rich Giardino Show. Frank, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Rich. God bless you, buddy.
Like and subscribe to The Rich Giardino Show, part of the Elite Influencer Network, wherever you get your podcasts. And we'll see you next time on The Rich Giardino Show, where the Constitution, crime, and politics meet.